Hi, everyone. My name is Kathleen Titsworth. I'm the Banking Outreach Coordinator with the Connecticut Department of Banking. And I was very thankful for Chelsea Groton Bank to invite me to be part of Money Madness. Even though we're not there in person, this is a great substitute. So I really want to thank Maria and Chelsea Groton Bank for that. So first, I just want to quickly tell you about the Department of Banking. We're a regulatory agency for the state of Connecticut. We regulate the financial services industry, pretty much state chartered banks and credit unions, the mortgage industry, and we also regulate financial professionals, investment professionals in the state. So that's our securities division. But today I'm going to talk to you guys all about credit. And you're probably initially thinking, why is that really important to me right now? I'm in high school, may or may not have a job, but what does credit have to do with me right now? Well, it may not be that important to you right now, but there are several reasons why you should begin to think about credit, establishing credit, definitely by the time you are in college. In the next few years, it's a really good thing for you to understand and know about and really begin to think about. And so my first question I sort of thought of is, why do I need to establish credit? You may not know these type of things right now, but eventually when you go to rent an apartment, right now you may be on your parents' phone plan, and someday you want to get your own phone. Maybe you want to upgrade or really just get off their plan. Being approved for things like loans, additional credit cards when you're shopping and in the mall, and you might be able to get a discount if you get a store credit card. That's something you need to have established credit for, and also even potentially getting a job. These are things landlords, the phone companies, financial institutions want to know that you have credit worthiness. They want to know that you're going to be able to pay back this type of debt. So, what are some ways to build credit? Well, you have to be 18 years of age in order to get your own credit card at this point, but that can't stop you right now at your age from establishing credit. In fact, a great way to do it is to become an authorized user on somebody else's credit card. Oftentimes it would be your parents. And what they would do would allow you access to the credit card. You may have an agreement between them. They may allow you full access. Maybe it's a credit card with a specific limit on it. Or what they could do is set a limit for you as an authorized user so that you don't go over a certain limit. And for their perspective, it keeps you on a certain limit so that the card isn't overused. And it kind of helps protect both of you. But the beauty of it is it helps you start to establish credit of your own, because that credit card will report to the credit bureaus that you are an authorized user, and in that way it helps you start to establish credit. The other nice thing about being an authorized user is you can start to see yourself each month start to pay this back. I suppose that could be an agreement between you and your parents on how much they allow you to have as a spending limit. But with online banking, you could see statements online. You can get an app that shows you, because say for instance, you have a $200 credit spending allowance for the month, and you've gone out a few times with friends, and then there's something this weekend you really want to buy, but you're not sure what your spending limit is. You can go online. You could check the app. It's a great way to be able to track your spending, and like I said, really start to establish credit on your own. But there are other ways you can build credit as well. Unfortunately, a few of these you have to be 18. There are types of credit cards called a secured credit card, where you provide a deposit. Say it's $300, and you give like the security deposit, and then that ends up being your limit for the month. So you can spend up to $300 per month. The company, the financial institution, has your deposit, and And that way you don't go over that. You can't go over that. But it's a way also for you to start establishing credit. Now, this is a little bit riskier, I'll say, because you do owe it every month, and it's similar to a regular credit card in that sense. If you don't pay in full, they'll charge you a little bit, things like that. I'm going to get into that in a moment with credit cards. There's also, when you go off to college, the opportunity to get a student credit card once you're 18 years old. These cards are nice because they may offer some incentives for you as your age, little or no fees, and if you use the card responsibly, some incentives in that sense. Again, I'm going to get into what credit cards are in a few minutes, and some of your responsibilities there. The other real basic way to build credit is to just develop really good credit habits. Pay your bills on time. Keep a low balance or no balance if you can, and really, really monitor your credit and see what you're doing in terms of spending. So I'm going to kind of backstep a little bit, and what really is credit? I've been talking about credit cards. I've been talking about establishing credit, but credit is basically a loan, borrowing money. I'm going to focus today, just since I just have a brief amount of time, on really credit cards, but I want you to remember that loans are a type of credit too. Auto loans, student loans, they're basically because you're borrowing money that you will have to pay back, okay? But loans also help you establish credit. So in short, you basically, with credit or a credit card, you are something you want to purchase, you use a credit card to pay for it, the bank or the institution that you're using for the credit card, in essence, pays the store for that purchase. Then they send you a credit card bill, and that may include charges. If you don't pay in full, there may be some additional charges or fees. And then basically you pay the credit card company or the bank or financial institution for your purchase. So it seems like a few steps, but it's basically when you don't have that cash on hand and want to make a larger purchase, you're sort of borrowing that money for that. Okay. So now there's credit cards and debit cards. And a lot of people, the reason why I'm including this is a lot of people, when I give presentations, ask the difference. So they're both offer you credit. They both carry logos of major credit card companies. Generally, Visa or MasterCard are generally the large companies, and they're used to make purchases. But there is a really big difference between the two types of cards. So essentially, as I mentioned, a credit card is a loan where you are borrowing money that you need to pay back at a later date. There's limits depending on the agreement you have with the credit card company. And there may be additional charges if you don't pay your full amount. You may have late fees if you're late in your payment, and you also may be paying back interest. In fact, you will be paying back interest if you don't pay in full for the month. Some credit cards charge an annual fee, but credit cards, importantly, to this discussion, help you build credit. Now, a debit card is a little bit different. A debit card is linked directly to your bank account. So you first need to have a savings or checking account with a financial institution, like Chelsea Groton Bank. When you decide to make a purchase, the money you use comes directly from that account that is linked to your debit card. And you can only spend the amount of money you have in that account. In fact, generally you'll be declined if you try to make a purchase that's more than what you have in the account. If your account has $300 and you try to make a purchase for a $450 iPad, you're probably going to be declined, even though it's related to your bank account. And the big difference is that with debit cards, they do not help you build credit, because when you think about it, you're kind of just borrowing from yourself. You're not even really borrowing the money. The money nearly immediately comes out of your bank account, okay? So that's the big difference with debit cards. Also the fact that you can get cash. You can go to an ATM with your debit card and get cash. So that's the big difference with debit cards. So when it comes to trying to establish credit, the credit card is the way to go. Now I want to make sure to share with you something about credit cards and paying them back. An important thing to know, that when you have a credit card, as I mentioned, you get a statement every month that tells you what you owe. And as I said, if you go online, you can check it every day and make sure, you know, that either the purchase you made went through. It's also a good way to check and make sure that no one else has utilized your credit card. So if you pay in full, there's no additional fees. Then that's it. If you bought a $20 purchase at the store of clothing, then you owe $20 for that. However, if you only pay a portion, if your statement comes in and you don't have the full amount, or say you don't want to pay the full amount, you will have either added interest, or potentially if you're late, you may have a late fee. And the reason why I want to share that, on your statement, it will show you how long it will take you to pay off if you only pay the minimum. And with small amounts, it doesn't seem too bad. You could say, well, you know, I only owe $130, and if I only pay the minimum of $20, you know, it'll take me 6 months with interest. That's not too bad. And okay, maybe I'll spend $145 instead of $120. However, it's a really bad habit to get into, because as you start utilizing credit cards more and making larger purchases, it's very easy to find yourself with a large credit card bill. And if you only pay the minimum, it could take years to pay that back. So it's really something I want you to keep in mind. You really don't want to get great deals at the store, say go down to the outlets and make some purchases and get really great sales, but then ultimately 2 years later find that you've spent triple on that, okay? So it really is something important to keep in mind. So I thought this was interesting. I found a study, a couple studies of college students in regard to credit. And a University of Wisconsin study from 2016 showed that teenagers who got credit cards before age 21, either as an authorized user, as I discussed earlier, or if they've gotten their own credit card after age 18, they're more likely to have better credit because they've had that experience with credit and credit cards already. And in another survey of college students, nearly 1/3 of them admit they were not at all or not very prepared to manage money on their own. Only 1 in 5 felt very well prepared, and 75% admitted that they made mistakes with their money. And the biggest thing here to me was that one of the 3 biggest mistakes made was putting too many purchases on credit cards. So getting some experience now, and as an authorized user where you kind of have that protection of somebody else who's the primary holder of the credit card, is a great way to really start to establish credit. So maybe something for you guys to talk about at home with mom and dad. So I want to leave you with a few really good credit card tips before you make a purchase. Make sure you can afford it. This is common sense, but it really is something, you know, that card in your hand, it could be so tempting to feel like you can get whatever you want. And you may be thinking, well, I see my parents, you know, or, you know, friends I'm with use their credit cards all the time, but you're not thinking about, say, how much limits they have or how much money they have to be able to pay that back. And it's really important, when it's your responsibility in your credit card, you really shouldn't purchase anything on a credit card that you probably couldn't buy just with cash. But the beauty of using the card is, as I mentioned before, starting to establish that credit, okay? You want to pay off as much as you can. Really, if it's possible to not carry a balance and pay it in full, that's the best thing. The other way is to look ahead and say, okay, I can't pay it in full now, but I know next month I'm gonna pay in full, and it's only this amount of extra money, and that's okay. I can do that. Okay. The big key is to keep within your limit. If you overcharge, some credit cards may not let you, but if you overcharge, that can be a little bit harder to pay back. And you want to pay on time. It's not worth it to pay those late fees. The late fee on my credit card is $35, and that's a lot. Again, when you've made some really great purchases, and maybe got that iPad on sale. I shopped on Black Friday and I got it on sale. Now here I am paying a fee on top of it because I couldn't remember to pay it on time. And I have to say, it's really easy to pay these on time, because doing your banking online, especially with credit cards and making payments online, one click and you've paid it. And you can even set up auto pay. And those are things definitely for you to talk about with the credit card company. So you want to help yourself establish this credit. You want to use that credit card maybe a few times when you know you can pay it off. Buy things you know you can pay for. I encourage you to pay it off in full and not leave a balance. It's really the best way to build your credit history. And like I said, why do we want to pay that credit? Why do we want to establish a really good credit history? Someday you're going to be renting your own apartment, maybe even in college, junior and senior year. A lot of people live off campus. You want to be able to have that credit behind you to rent that apartment. Maybe get your own phone plan, get some more credit cards, and some jobs out there, they really do look on your credit. So it may take a little bit of time to do this, but it's definitely worth it and worth looking into. So I hope I taught you guys something well today. I want to thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best. And, credit takes some time, but it's worth it. So thanks, everyone.